At the Mike Duffy trial in Ottawa, the cross-examination of a former lawyer at the Prime Minister's office has ended and court has adjourned until Monday.
Have a great weekend. See you on Monday morning.
Under questioning from defense lawyer Donald Bain, Benjamin Perrin said he thought the Prime Minister had approved the plan to repay Mike Duffy's expenses. He says he thought the good-to-go email from Nigel Wright meant Stephen Harper had signed off on the deal. Bain asked Perrin if he thought what Duffy did was a crime. Perrin said he didn't think so. Perrin also testified he felt blindsided by Wright's decision to pay Duffy's tab. Joining us now in studio is criminal defense lawyer Alvin Shidlowski. He's a partner at the Rotenberg Shidlowski Jessen firm. Thank you so much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Okay, so let's start with this. Benjamin Perrin's testimony in the Duffy trial. He has now concluded. What do you think of what he had to say?
Well, Mr. Perrin had some very interesting testimony. He certainly got a lot of eyebrows raised by contradicting Mr. Wright. Keep in mind that when he was talking about his understanding of what good to go meant, that's simply his interpretation. He didn't offer any evidence that could be corroborated in any way. Simply his interpretation that what he thought was going on and that he thought the Prime Minister had approved of that whole five-point plan, whereas Nigel Wright had indicated that that was not the case, that his discussions with Prime Minister Harper were only in reference to part of that, and Prime Minister Harper knew nothing about the $90,000 repayment or the whole repayment scheme.
Do you think these kinds of revelations are the kind that Donald Bain is looking for?
Absolutely. The funny part about it, or the interesting part perhaps, is that this is exactly what Mr. Bain has been trying to get to. Mm-hmm. The question, though, is how does this advance his client's defense from a criminal analysis? And it doesn't. What it acts to do is to undermine perhaps credibility of Mr. Wright and sort of muddy the waters to that extent. And whether or not that has an influence on the judge remains to be seen. But it doesn't actually address the criminal issues. It really is more of a campaign to sort of muddy everything up.
Well, that being said, is it possible to over-muddy the waters?
It is, and at some point, a trier of fact can say, I've had enough of this. Where is all this going? Let's get back to basics. And my suspicion is that, or my view is that, at some point, this judge, who is known as an extremely good judge and will give both defense counsel and prosecutors a wide berth. At some point, he'll say, gentlemen, enough is enough. Let's get back to the root of the issues here.
Right. Okay, so the trial resumes on Monday. What can we expect, do you think?
Well, it's hard to know what to expect exactly. The Crown Attorney holds its cards very close to its vest. It's not letting us know who its next witnesses are. There's been some rumor that perhaps the Prime Minister might be called. I can tell you that that will not happen. Even if they attempt to do that, it won't be this week. Certainly the Crown will not attempt to call the Prime Minister. Even if the defense tries to, he'll invoke parliamentary privilege. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen.
Any other members, though, of the PMO's office?
I think we need to wait and see. At some point, I think the Crown is going to wonder whether it needs to call any further witnesses in the PMO's office. I think the Crown did a good job getting Perrin to advance its cause here, mm-hmm. which is to say that Duffy was the one who demanded these concessions that he kept trying to not want to pay, and he would only repay if these conditions were being met. And that's what the Crown needed to do in order to try to get to the corrupt intent it needs to get to if it wants to make that bribery charge stick.
All right, criminal attorney, defense attorney, Alvin Shidlowski, a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.